Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Middle Age Mum Rants. Um, like, subscribe, or whatever it is they say. Basically, if you feel like it, do it. If you don't, it's fine. Today's subject, I would like to talk about not just Christmas, but just basically how important it is all year to show people that you love and care about them. Somehow I don't think that buying people big expensive gifts is necessarily the way to prove that you care about people. There is a million different thoughts that go into things during the year. Nor do I think that if you have 3 children that you have to spend the exact pound amount on each and every child. You're the only one really that will know how much everything costs, especially when they're little. So who are you trying to compete with? And the gifts that you give don't matter as much as the real presents, as in your presents. Now, I'm not somebody that's always been able to show up in the best way possible. We all know that, I had a real mess of a life for a long time. But I also learnt a lot from those experiences. I learnt to be humble. I learnt to appreciate the things I have, but more so appreciate the people I have. I'd spent an entire Christmas homeless at one point. I've been homeless all year, but it snows at Christmas, which is why that springs to mind so much. I didn't have anywhere to lay my head at night. I slept in a local park, sometimes under a park bench, with carrier bags over me, so that I could at least try to stay warm and as dry as possible. But I also met some amazing people during that experience. I mean, these are people that were really down on their luck and they felt like they'd been kicked out of the human race. And I also met members of the general public that were willing to continue that thought in their head. Christmas Day, we were all fortunate enough to be able to get ourselves a meal in the local Salvation Army Hall, and offered to wash up and stuff at the end, offered to help. But they were so kind and so generous, and the feeling of camaraderie there was just, you could, if you could bottle it, you could sell it on an open market. It was a beautiful feeling. And these were people that had given up their Christmas Day to make sure that those of us that had nothing would have something. Somewhere to be dry, somewhere to eat a hot meal. And a few of them even sat down and had conversations with us about our lives. Now, I by no means was the worst case there. There have been people that have been living and surviving rough on the streets for, or some of them almost a decade. And they'd sort of acclimatised themselves to that lifestyle. And they found even spending a night in the homeless shelter nearby too much to handle. So when they did manage to get a place for the evening, they found they couldn't settle. They couldn't sleep in a house. Can you imagine that for one moment? I hope you can't. And there's the assumptions that come with being homeless. People assume that you're begging even when you're not. People assume that if you were begging, that money would go towards alcohol and drugs, when most of the time, if someone was offered £1, it would go to a packet of cup of soups, the cheapest brand possible, some plastic cups, and hoping that the local Weatherspoons wouldn't mind giving us hot water to go in these cups. It was a packet of biscuits that was passed around between people. And some people even use their £1 to get pen and paper and a stamp, because they weren't that expensive back then, just so that they could send a letter to their own homes where their own families were, giving them what was probably a yearly chance to know that they were okay. We tend to judge people based on their worst case scenarios. And in a way, there are certain members of the public that expect to be able to defer to these people as, well, yeah, these people, you know, they should have done better in life. They should have made better choices. You think they don't know that? You think they don't understand that one dodgy road and we could all end up in the same place? I did end up in the same place. And if it wasn't for the love and support of good people, and for those people that would not judge, that still treated me as though I was ever so much more than what the worst person would have me feel, they made the difference. When you think about your Christmases when you were young, do you think about the penny and pound amount of your gifts? I'm assuming 3/4 of you wouldn't know how much everything cost. But if you did, do you remember dollar amounts? Or do you remember who you were with when you received that gift? Do you remember the atmosphere of the place that you were stood in? Do you remember those people that were around that meal table, or that were visiting, or you were visiting? My bet is it's the second. So, my solution to the Christmas present scenario is, when I got to a certain age, I told my mother and I told other people in my life, the best gift you could give me this year is the knowledge that you have paid your bills and you are not worrying about money into the new year. And myself and my husband, we have a bet each year, the present that we get each other, because we get gifts for each other throughout the year now. But it's this year's challenge is, we have to find something that costs less than £2. It has to have a sentimental attachment to it, i.e. a memory or something. And it has to be silly. But it's a challenge. You know, the money about it doesn't make sense. It's the challenging ourselves to really have a good look round the old, you know, charity shops or bookstores or something. You know, you can have a look and find something to prove that it doesn't have to cost financial anxieties into the new year. I never really value people's ability to give gifts to others. It's how you treat them. If you can't do someone a good turn, then leave them alone. The real essence of Christmas is not in the buying, it's in the love. And isn't that what we were all taught? Love should matter more than money. Well, I'm going to give a few of you a challenge out there this year. You have to pick somebody that you really, really love and care about. And they have to agree to this also. And set yourself a pound amount or a dollar amount, small as you can go, and spend that time looking for something. You could even make it, buy materials and make something for them. But really put the effort in. I can guarantee it'll be a memorable Christmas. On that note, I wish you all love, light, peace, and the warmest of holiday wishes. Take care. Have a good one, everybody. Love ya.